Real water sports doorbuster deals kicking off Black Friday early this year, Scott. 70% off site wide.
Yeah, I'll raise my hand and say I have visited the site. I've looked at some stuff. I'm definitely geeking out on some foil gear. And frankly, the Christensens, I just came back from riding a Christensen. So yeah, there's so many great things going on at Real Water Sports right now with the Black Friday doorbuster deals. You got to go check it out and be prepared. And you know what? It's the time of year to give. So now is the time to think about others. Perhaps you think about David. Perhaps you think about Scott. You present us with, a new board.
I like where this is going. In addition to the product that we know and love, they're also offering 10% off their services. So accommodations at the Waterman's Retreat, you can book a room, get 10% off, or book kite, surf, or wing lessons and get 10% off those two with the code Black Friday 10. So that is cool. And then Trip actually texted me an hour ago and said they're going to be contacting that Jerry Lopez glider giveaway winner today. So wait by your phone
Do
because you
they have
might be
my
getting a call
number?
from Trip.
Trip does have my number, so I'm standing by anxiously.
Good. And then also Colby Plus just got a ton of inventory on a new look to their suits. These are the all black suits. The previous year or two, the ones that we've been wearing were black for, 3/4 of the body on the way down, and then just the shoulders had that dark gray. This is all black, updated, and beautiful, warm, and comfortable.
And now is the time for a brand new Colby Plus full suit because of the water temperature, which has dipped. I actually saw this morning a 59 reading on the Torrey Pines buoy, which that's just 1 degree too less.
It used to be 59, I would wear a 4.3 for the first 15, 20 years of my surfing. Now, this 3.2 Colby Plus is plenty for 59-degree water. I'm happy in it and comfortable. So
Yeah.
check them out. Colby is spelled COLBY plus.com.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail. A clean entry, this thing holding open, it spits.
When it spit me, I thought it was going to spit me off my board.
Comes out with the spit, spits him out. Comes out after the spit, gets spat out of another good-looking wave here. Spit.
We're just spitballing, right? Yeah, God. Yeah, guy, David. Yeah, guy. It is Spit. We are the Spit Podcast. We talk all things surf. David Lee Scales, Scott Bass with you. It's Wednesday. It's November 20th, David. And man, talk about how quickly this year flew by. It's kind of mind blowing. Good morning to you, my friend.
Morning, Scott Bass. Welcome back. We apologize to listeners for missing last week, but look, our lives get busy. Some people have to go on surf trips and schedule gets interrupted once a year, I'd say. Not that often, actually. So welcome back to the show.
Yeah. I've got a who said that for you, a real quick one. Who said that, David? The magic board is the board that disappears.
This was going to be my who said that to you. This is Dave Rastovich.
It is. And I think it's the perfect way to describe what a magic board feels like. You don't feel it. You don't know it's there. It just goes where you want it to go.
He goes beyond that to say, peak form is when I merge from a single cell into a wave form.
Now, yeah, before we get into that, well, we could go right into that, right?
Oh, no, we got to get updates.
Okay.
Can we talk about where you were last week?
Absolutely. I'm excited. I went to Fiji by way of my good friends, Brian and Sarah and some others at Waterways Travel. So Waterways Travel, I called them up. They got me dialed into a dream trip, really, a trip to Tavarua Island Surf Resort. And I'm telling you, we all have, and by the way, I've never been to Tavarua Island. In all of my travels, I have surf Cloudbreak. I've been to Fiji a number of times, but I've never stayed on the island. And I know a lot of listeners have already been there, but I haven't. So bear with me as I gush about my first experience.
The vast majority of listeners have not been there, by the way. So go ahead, gush.
Probably not, actually. You're right. But it's definitely, so let me just say this. Tavarua Island Surf Resort is a bucket list destination. It is right there with, for those of us that are regular foots, J Bay. If you're a goofy foot, I think G Land. Tavarua Island Surf Resort is a bucket list. It's probably also the most well-rounded place to go to because what you get is, first of all, you get that incredible aquamarine blue water. Like that watercolor is mind-blowing. And, in Indo, we get kind of a really beautiful green color, maybe a bluish green. This is that deep aqua blue that looks like, it should be a Jello pop or something like that. It's transcendent, that watercolor, that blue watercolor. Everyone is in awe of it. And of course, the waves are critical. Well, Cloudbreak is critical. It's an experts only wave, let's be frank, especially above 6 feet. Yeah, anyone like me can catch a wave there, but what that wave does is it separates the intermediate surfers from the really great surfers. Cloudbreak exposes you. Look, the other cool thing about it is that you can go there and challenge yourself, but there are so many other way less critical waves that they can take you to, which is why this is a must go to destination. And you'll be in heaven, like restaurants or Tavi Rights or Wilkes. And there's great waves for beginners. You wouldn't believe how many wives and daughters and children went to swimming pools on soft top longboards and just were in, just like playing, just like a playful, like they were in a swimming pool or something, which is, I guess, why it's called swimming pools. And of course, the resort itself is unbelievable. Tavarua Island, bucket list, no doubt. And frankly, I mean, from what Dave Clark has done there is amazing. The way they give back to the village, the way that he has perfected a surf resort. You can't go there and be like, oh yeah, but surf colonialism or whatever. Like he has the tribe has taken in Dave, the village has taken in Dave, the Fijian locals. It's such a well-rounded, well-run place, and the whole crew there from 𝐏𝐢𝐬𝐬 to the boatman, Eric Nelson and Chad Campbell and Jared and Chris and Nate, and all of them super customer service oriented. And frankly, it's a hard gig. Like, I don't know, you got to be patient. There's a lot of guys like me going, hey, when should I wax my board? Like there's just a lot of,
yeah.
And, each and every week they have to show up with smiles and that's, you got to be the right type of person to do that gig. And they have them. Those guys are great. And, I got great waves. And of course I foiled a bunch too. They have an incredible shack filled with all of the brand new Armstrong foil gear, all the new boards, all the new high aspect wings, all the new tails, all the new mass, everything. It's unreal. So, completely surfed out. And, it's a place that you have to take your wife and your child. Like you, David, it's such a perfect place for them. And, although, I will say this, it probably does take a certain type of person, if you're not a surfer, to be there for 7 days straight. Like you have to be the type of traveler that just wants to like do nothing, and I'm not that person. I need to be going and doing stuff. And so I think
into the ocean, basically.
Yeah, right. Like I think that if you could set it up so you could do like 3 or 4 days there, your wife may or may not get bored after day 4, but it's unless she surfs,
So which boards did you finally decide to bring? And then what were the waves like and where'd you surf?
So I brought the Christensen 6.6 and I brought the Ryan Sakel Twinser 511 Twinser with the Dark Arts technology that Justin Turnus did for me. And interestingly, I actually liked the Twinser more, but there were days when I had to have the 6.6. It was pretty big a couple of days. And, but I found that the 6.6, I just need a little bit more foam. It just didn't quite have enough foam. The thing about and again, I'm a rookie at Cloudbreak. I've only surfed there a couple times. But what I noticed is that it's the type of wave that you can just flip and go if you're a good enough surfer on like a 6'2". Like you don't need a 6'6". Now, there's a certain size where, okay, you got to pick up the wave that's barreling at you, moving down the reef, and you need a board to paddle into it. You're not necessarily going to flip on it unless you're, 25-year-old Kelly Slater or whatever. And so at that point, you need some foam. And I found that the 6'6", it was a little too thin. It was kind of a tweener. It wasn't the 6'2" that I could flip on and not worry about purling. And it didn't have quite enough chest foam for those big meaty sets that were kind of bearing down from the outside and rolling in from the west or whatever. And so the board worked great. Don't get me wrong. I love my Christensen, but it's not the board's fault. I picked the wrong board. You know what I mean? And then of course the 𝐒𝐚𝐳 �twinser, which was this wide fish thing, which I was like, oh my God, I don't know if this board's going to work out here. It actually pointed and shot pretty well. And funny thing, that episode of Electric Acid Surfboard Test, episode 3, I think it was, where Vince from Futures goes, yeah, we got these new alpha reverse fins. Well, I fully bit the hook and purchased those fins and had them, overnighted to my house. Cause I'm like, I'm going to put those. That sounds like what my twins are. It'd be fun to put those in there. And man, I love those fins. I rode those fins yesterday here at home, and I'm a huge fan of those fins. And everyone should check those out. If you get a chance. Oh, and so what was your other question? Where did I surf?
Where'd you surf? And I'd also like to hear you explain a little bit more about what the challenges are at Cloudbreak. You said it's an expert only wave. Can you explain more why?
Well, it's expert only once it gets, I think, 6 feet and above, which they would probably call 3 feet Hawaiian. But when it's expert only because, there's reef right underneath you, and you have to, it's just a super fast wave. So you have to commit. You see a long swooping line, way down the line, and you have to commit to that, to those sections. There's no like going down into the flats and nursing a bottom turn. Like if you're not going Mach speed, top speed right away, high up in the wave, like if you don't take off and stay high in the wave face. Now, of course, there's going to be waves, especially up the reef, up the reef more, where they're a little easier to kind of go into the flats. But the real wave is where it kind of hits and bends into that inside section. And that part of the wave requires high speed, high technicality, the ability to pull up high into and commit to sort of an almondy tube that will then burp open. And I certainly never really got anything like that. I got one moment where I thought I was in the tube, but the photos revealed that I was actually in front of the tube. But regardless, it was a heck of a ride and a bunch of good rides. So it's an expert wave because there's a lot to deal with, and there's a lot of movement. Like you're not just sitting there going, okay, I'm waiting for my next killer little 6-foot California wave. It's like, no, we've got a meaty mammoth wall of water moving down a shallow reef that's going very fast, and you get to try to catch it.
Man, sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And it looked like there was a couple celebrities there with you, or not with you, but at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, the WSL was there the week before we showed up. So when we flew in, I did see Steph Gilmore. I did not get a chance to fanboy out and say hi and tell her that I consider her Princess Diana of surfing. Do you think that would have went over well?
I think she hears it all the time. She'd be fine.
I didn't know this, I guess. And again, I was sort of living vicariously through other people who know about her. But and you might know this, I think she goes out with one of the Beastie Boys.
No.
Maybe I'm just making that up. And if I am, I apologize. But
no, her boyfriend's name is Harry, I think, or Henry or something. He's like a normal dude.
Anyway, there was a bunch. I think that what happened is the WSL flew in a bunch of their favorite, A-list competitors to enjoy the week with them. And I think Alex Gray might have been there too, but And then, yeah, out in the water, Tom Carroll was there. Brisa, I got to surf with Brisa Hennessy quite a few times. Um, Lakey was there, Lakey Peterson. They were all, they surf so great, you know. It really made me realize that it's so easy to be a talking head on these shows and to, and I've done this, you know, I've said, you know what? She's not good enough to ever be world champion, you know. And in some ways that's what you and I do. That's sort of our jobs, to be antagonists on some level. Although I kind of cringe at that. You know, I don't want to, I get it when sometimes you and I will be like, the WSL needs to do this or they need to do that. But when you're so close with the athletes, when the whole thing's like this traveling circus, that it's easy to just kind of be a wall of positive noise around all of it, because you're living with them, you know, and you're so close with them that I think it's difficult to kind of step back and have a probably profound and maybe correct critical view of somebody when you're arm in arm with them.
Yeah, of course. I completely get that. That's where criticism has value in the world, you know, whether it's food critics or art critics or whatever, film critics, is because they have the perspective of the broad audience.
Yeah, that and Derek Hine comes to mind, and there's quite a few. There's some other guys that have the ability to have a critical voice because they have the respect of those people that they're speaking of. At least they did. In some cases, not anymore. Who knows?
Well, I think the other thing is, for so many years in surfing, the journalists were part of that inner circle. And so they were just drinking the Kool-Aid as well, you know, or they just want to be friends with. They're sycophantic, and they idolize these surfers so much. And so I think I can say for myself, I've grown beyond that phase of life. And so I think we're in a new era. How is one person I would fanboy out, Tom Carroll? How is Tom Carroll?
Well, we just had a passing at Cloudbreak. He was coming in and I was going out or something.
So you didn't
like
get to see him surf?
No, I didn't get to see him surf, but we chatted
Bummer.
for just a bit. And yeah, I know. I did see a clip of him at Cloudbreak though, and it was just glorious. You know, he's the master. Just he is an incredible athlete. He's like that cat that he's like he'll never fall. He's all his balance. He's just so balanced in everything he does. I mean, all the great surfers, I guess, are like that, but
he's got a low center of gravity, so that helps. And he's strong, you know, at an older age.
He's a beast for sure.
Well, good, man. Congrats. That's such a good trip. I would like listeners to note that I was mentioning Waterways had availability in November a month or two ago, and you said, what date's in November? Can I get on that? And that was the seed that was planted, and it all came to fruition.
Yeah, and a huge shout out to Brian and the guys at Waterways. In fact, Brian flew out and we surfed together quite a couple of days. Yeah, Brian flew out there was a little swell. You know, there was a 3-day window when it was kind of pumping, and that was super cool. And of course, we had the traditional Fiji night kava ceremony and the presenting of gifts to the chief and discourse with the chief. It's pretty interesting. I don't know if you've ever done it, but basically everybody, they hand out kava and they have they have a little talk, and the Fijians do some chanting or whatever it is that they do. And then each guest is asked to walk up to the chief in sort of a pronated, sort of subjugated way. You walk up there with your gift and you kneel in front of them and you present your gift, and then you talk to the chief, and it's pretty powerful, you know. It's anytime, and it's just their way of welcoming you and expressing what their culture is like. It was really cool. I really enjoyed it.
Super cool, man. Well, anybody who wants to get in, or at any point, go to Fiji, go to Tavarua. Waterways is the way to do it. And this is a big announcement. We're going back to El Salvador in April. You and I brought 18 listeners in April of 2024. Earlier this year, we're doing it again in April 2025. We're doing the exact same idea, staying at the same place, Hotel Los Mongos, 6 nights. If you want to get in on this, it's limited, basically. So Scott is you're going to probably go, I believe, right?
What are the dates?
April 1st through the 7th.
Yeah, I'm a probable.
Okay, I'm going for sure. And so that basically there's 10 rooms at this resort. We book out the whole resort, and whether you get a shared room or a single will dictate how many people will be there. There will either be anywhere between 10 and 20 people, basically. But even if there's 20, there's plenty of waves around, to where it's not crowded. Um, for 6 nights with 3 meals a day, transport to and from the airport, transport to surf locations nearby, all of that stuff. It's about $1,200 for a shared room, or about $1,700 if you want to do the single room. And again, that covers everything basically other than airfare. So if you're interested, oh, and a massage, by the way. So if you're interested, contact either me at surfsplendor@gmail.com or directly reach out to waterwaystravel.com, and we'll lock it in. We sold this out last year. We'll sell it out again. We probably could have sold it out 2 or 3 times over last year. So time is of the essence if you want to lock that in for April.
And one more thing I want to say is that, I was under the impression that Tavarua was booked out, which it is, by the way. I mean, it's pretty much booked out. But if you're a single like I was, and you want to go to Tavarua, they can absolutely slide you into a spot. So don't feel like you have to get 25 of your buddies together to go and try to book a week at Tavarua. You can go there as a single. All you got to do is reach out to Brian and go, "Hey man, I'm in. Like, I'd like to go. Like, what do I got to do?" And he'll guide you along. And so there's plenty of opportunities for singles or for you and your wife. And frankly, because of Fiji Airlines and the way that they set up their schedule, Waterways is sort of at their beck and call. In other words,
Right.
Fiji Airways only books out their schedule 2 years in advance. So it's not like weeks are booked out 10 years and there's some like long waiting list.
Yeah. Sweet. Awesome. Well, welcome back, man.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, the electric acid surfboard test finished, actually.
It did. It finished. And
episode 4 dropped on Thursday. It was every bit as good. I mean, it was excellent. The story arc, the narrative arc in this one, I think was the most interesting. I guess what I mean to say is, in the past, whenever we have criticisms or critiques on, that board didn't get a fair shake, or they only rode that board in crappy waves, or that board then broke, or whatever it happens to be, they really did a phenomenal job this year to allow, I guess it was just enough time. They said Rasta was riding these boards for 9 months. So the ones that broke, they fixed. The ones that he didn't like for a certain reason, they made adjustments to. The ones that he thought needed different fins, they got fins made for those. And he really, I felt, gave each board the most fair shake that I've ever seen in this, so that by the time the thing finished, I really felt like he not only identified the board that was the most intriguing to him and the best board for him, but also went through a process with each board where he liked some at some point, then he didn't like it, or he didn't like it at first, and then he came back to liking it, or he made adjustments, and he really got to know each board. So major success in my mind.
Yeah, I agree. Thoroughly enjoyed it. They did do a great job, as you mentioned, of giving Dave. And I wonder if Dave had a say in that. Like I want to give these boards a proper go, And they threw us a bit of a curveball by going to Puerto Rico, which I found very interesting.
It was unnecessary, I thought. Like, he looked a lot less comfortable out there at his home breaks. He is so in sync. He just is playing and having fun. And then in Puerto Rico, it just seemed like unnecessary. The waves weren't better than they were at his place.
They weren't. I sense that he may have flown there on his way to California to do some of that filming, the premiering. I don't know, but I'm sure that he didn't come over here twice. So he probably flew here. But yeah, the waves, it's in a weird way. When that happened, I was like, okay, that's kind of cool that they're showing more, how do I say, average waves or average Joe waves, like waves that just weren't perfect Lennox or whatever. And a little softer, a little fatter, but still obviously very good waves. In some ways, that's kind of good for the shapers, so that their designs get tested in not just these spinny little sandbars, but
Well,
more open face opportunities for Dave.
I agree with that for sure. The way that now I realize now the way the timeline worked out was he came to California to come to the episode 1 premiere. And then there was basically a month until the final was published. And so he said at that episode 1 premiere that they were going to Florida to see his wife's family. So I think they went to
Oh,
Florida to see Lauren's family and then shot down to Puerto Rico and shot that final footage before making the
yeah,
final decision.
that's cool. So that means that at the La Paloma premiere, Dave at least knew the final four, but had to be, or didn't they present him the twin fin at that thing? They did. They presented him the
Yeah.
IPA twin fin Sting at that
Yeah,
episode,
so
which,
we had come into this with 5 boards: the Corey Graham, the John Simon, the Fletcher Chenard, the Lovelace, and the Neil Purchase Jr. Um, and then he brought back, he didn't love the IPA single fin, so he had gotten rid of that previously, but he said he would have wanted to ride it as a twin fin. So they actually got Duke IPA to make him the similar board, but as a twin fin, and presented that at episode 1 premiere. And then he brought that to Puerto Rico and kind of brought it back into the mix, basically. And
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
and brought a DHD trifin into the
That
mix.
was great, wasn't it? Just his commentary on the tri-fin, that, they're called tri-fins because you have to try, which I thought was wonderful.
He's right, but it's also he's so humble. He's like, oh, I have to try so hard. I understand why these guys are hitting the gym and working out so much. You have to be really fit. And you're looking at him with his shirt off saying that, going, dude, he's as fit as any dude on tour, and surfs as good as any dude on tour. So I think there is a bit of humility there, or it was
yeah,
enhanced, maybe.
yeah, uh, and what's interesting is when you see Dave at the top trying to set that inside rail on the tri-fin, and it was kind of bogging. You know, I just like the whole thing that he was getting at, which is like, don't make it so hard.
Mhm.
And frankly, me with my little chicken legs, I get that. Like, that's
Mhm.
what I think why I like multi-finned, a little bit wider tailed boards, because it just makes it smoother and easier. I'm not doing that contemporary power gouge that John Florence is doing or that Dane Reynolds is doing. I'm just kind of like trying to set that rail. And I think the average surfer is just trying to set that rail. And that's our top turn. Like, we're not doing the big power gouge
Yeah.
180-degree thing that is basically, you know, the top. I think that turn is kind of like right now, like that's it. That turn that John did in the finals that he does at Margaret, that is sort of the how do I say this, David? What would I say? That is the archetype. That is the top of the heap.
The pinnacle of high
That is
performance
the
surfing at the
pinnacle of
moment.
high performance surfing right now. Thank you. Don't you agree with that?
Yeah, I do agree with it.
But that's not what me or you or 99.9% of the surfing public does. We'd much rather be, I'm not going to speak for everyone. I would much rather be up there and just go, oh, cool. Cool. I did a little top turn. Now let's race down the line and do a big bottom turn. And no, I did a little top turn.
Well, I liked his analogy when he was discussing the thruster. He related the boards to knives. And he's like, you feel that thruster and it's got hard edges, it's pointy, it's thin. He's like, this is like a steak knife. And you can kind of cut through the water real quick with it, And then this other board is like a butter knife and it spreads things out nice and smoothly. You can see the rounded edges on it and you just use a different application for it. And I'm like, that's totally right.
Yeah.
Um,
Great communicator. He
Great
did such
communicator, dude.
it's going to be hard. Like, uh, who's next? You know what I mean? I hate to be that guy that's already looking to who's next, but maybe it's Kelly. And I had sort of a weird thought too, Dave. What about all twinsers? Make Kelly a twinser. And he just goes all twinser. Or maybe Rob Machado would be a great next one. Make Rob Machado all twinsers. That's the only caveat. It's got to be a twinser.
Yeah, I like it. That's very interesting. It's I was going to say it's a different concept, but it's not really because they do generally put some sort of a theme on it. So that would be an
And there's
interesting
never,
theme.
I was thinking about it. I've never seen a twinser
Right.
in the electric acid surfboard test. Now there may have been one, but I mean, we've seen bonzers, twins,
Yeah,
we've
yeah.
seen it all, ASIMs. I've never seen a twinser. So
Yeah.
what a great opportunity.
Um, the other thing that I loved about this episode was getting to know every episode they've done, they allow you to get to know Rasta a little bit deeper and in a new way. And the way that they did this one was giving his backstory with family photo album and letting Dave give a one sentence explanation. This is the time back in 2000. This was in 2000, or no, this was when I was 26 and I lost my way and totally commodified my surfing. This is when I was into budgie smugglers when I was 8 years old, that kind of stuff. And it was like 90 seconds total, maybe 60 seconds total. And you got this snapshot of the different phases of his life. And I thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah. I think I've told you the story where we were on a Waves of Compassion, a Surf Aid Mentawai trip. And we hiked up we took this canoe way up into the jungle, and then we hiked to this way like remote Indo-Mentawai village. And it was, I think Strider was there, and Keith Malloy, and Ben Bourgeois, Divine was there, Sonny Miller was there. Do you know Justin Crumb? He was the filmer, Justin Crumb.
No.
And Dave, of course, was there. And we get up there, and I'm just like exhausted. I'm just super soft. I'm like, "Where's my massage?" I'm ready for a smoothie and a massage. And they're like, they bring up this pig, and they cut the pig's neck right there and let it bleed out, and they chop it up and they start cooking it for us. We're in this huge, 𝐒𝐚𝐯𝐵𝐻 thing that it's basically the village common house. And Dave Rastovich is totally in his element, at least from my perspective. He's completely become part of the culture. Like they like welcomed him in, like they knew him or something, like he was a long lost brother. And Dave brought out he had this cool little drum. I don't know what you call it, like a little finger drum that made all these really, and of course, immediately Dave's part of the band, they're playing. and, and, and I'm just like, oh my God, put a bullet in my head. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to leave. I'm just exhausted. I'm just like the classic white American guy that's like, excuse me, where's my pillow?
That is very funny.
And I passed out. Eventually I just passed out. I couldn't, I was just, and from what I know, Dave stayed and jammed with the band. It was like, being on Letterman or something and joining the band, and the way that he embraced and welcomed and realized that, I want to become a part of this little subculture, this little moment. It was pretty phenomenal, and it really speaks to, his character.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Such a cool figure to have in surfing. Well, I mentioned the boards that were included in this one. The Neil Purchase Jr. got cut first. That became the fourth place board. The Duke IPA board, which really was only submitted in the final episode as a twin fin, became third place. And it came down to a heavyweight match between the Vanilla Bean and the Pedestrian ship.
Yeah, the mullet, right? The mullet or the Vanilla Bean.
Yeah, the Fletcher Chenard versus the Ryan Lovelace, basically.
Kind of interesting, right? Because really what you have is two extremes. You have basically a contemporary quad that you can get at the surf shop that's literally in the racks at Patagonia stores everywhere. That's a standard issue design from Fletcher.
Also known as Scott has been looking at them at the Patagonia shop on the rack to purchase one.
They're pretty nice. They're pretty nice. And something that was pretty extreme, I would suggest to you, in Ryan Lovelace's design. I don't know if Ryan would say that. Excuse me. So I don't want to speak for him, but certainly relative to the Fletcher board, it was something different. So you had sort of contrasting designs.
So what were your thoughts before the winner was revealed? What were your thoughts on the boards? Which one did you think looked better, and which one did you think would win?
Well, of the two, I was biased towards that Fletcher board because I'm in this space where I think simpler is better for me. Like I'm sure that I wouldn't be able I think that the Ryan Lovelace board, I think Ryan built a board that was that was more to the point of the whole electric acid surfboard test. Like Ryan put some thought into, let's make something unique and different and that fits the theme, right? Like we're trying to get outside the box. And I think Ryan's board was better for that. I personally thought that Dave surfed a little better on the Fletcher board, especially at home. But that too is a little bit misleading because the waves are so perfect at Lennox that I think a more contemporary, thinned out sort of, those types of boards look better in perfect waves. And I think Ryan's board was probably just, when you look at your brushes in Photoshop, which brushes you get to choose, I think Ryan's board had was one of those brushes that was sort of splayed out and had some unique opportunities for the way that you're going to spread your paint on the canvas. And I think that the Chenard was just like this really perfect brush, with a fine point.
So the way that Dave explained exactly that was the Chenard was electric and the Lovelace was acid. And this is the electric acid surfboard test. And so the electricity is precise and it's sharp. And then the acid is a little bit more nebulous and there's more experimentation available, And I thought that was so genius. And you're exactly right. He's exactly right. That's what I was witnessing. And up until the final 20 minutes of the episode, I really felt like the Chenard was the clear winner from episode 1 through. His surfing looked so insane. The board looked really perfect, actually. He surfed it incredibly well. And interestingly, early in the series, he dismissed the Lovelace and then he painted it and brought it back. I think they made some fin adjustments on that board and he started experimenting with it again and it came back into his good graces. And what he explained and what I witnessed in that narrative arc was, yeah, the Chenard is reliable. It'll do what you want it to do. It's great. But this thing over here keeps me coming back for more. Like it looked more interesting. Chenard looked great. This looked a little bit more interesting. He was taking different lines, less perfect for sure, but more open to new paths, I think is what it was. And that's what really, in the end, spoiler alert, that's the board he picked, the Ryan Lovelace.
And I think that the fin choice should be noted here as well. They switched fins, they put those new alpha reverse futures in, and that may have had something to do with it.
Well, the lesson for us that we've discussed here for a decade now is keep an open mind. You know what I mean? Like these boards, we often honor the shaper and say they're a genius, they're designer. And so there's a bunch of effort that goes into this thing for good reason. And so if you take it out once and decide you don't like it, it's probably not fair. You need to keep an open mind, switch out the fins, maybe paint it differently, whatever, and it could come back and become the winner.
Yeah. And congratulations to all of the shapers, but for sure to Ryan Lovelace, a former Icon of Foam winner at the boardroom show. He won the Jerry Lopez shape off. And now, he, as you see in the end of the episode, he offered some rather unique boards in earlier iterations of electric acid. The Rabbit's Foot, I think twice. I think Sean Monroe said something pretty classic, like I feel stupider for riding this board, which
Sean Manners.
Sean Manners, thank you. That might be the greatest quote of that's such a good quote. And all the stuff that we got to see. So it's neat that Ryan won, and because he put himself out there in the past, he's put himself out with the Rabbit's Foot. I mean, that's pretty extreme. And of course also to get insight from Dane Reynolds, from Donald Brink, from all of the guys that, again, the guys that made the board, that made the episodes, they deserve a tip of the cap.
Well, look, that was new in this series too, is interviewing the shapers after they've actually seen the footage of the surfer riding their board and hear Dave's feedback on their exact board is a great thing to incorporate into the edit.
I mean, the 3 or 4 waves at the end of the episode where they show Dave ripping on that Ryan Lovelace, What do we call that board again? What are you calling it?
Well, he's calling it the pedestrian ship.
The pedestrian ship. I tell you what, doesn't it make you want to ride?
Well, I've been texting with Ryan, and he said he's putting the final kind of tweaks on it now in terms of making it available to the broad market. And so it will be available to the broad market in a variety of constructions. Because I asked if he was going to be doing it in the hemp, and he's like, we are, but we're going to do it in a variety of constructions. So look forward to that. But you mentioned a congratulations to the crew and to Ryan himself. I want to double down on that for Ryan, because his career trajectory has been totally unexpected and awesome. Like, he was doing, I mean, I don't know if it was the beginning of his career, but he was doing like hulls and boards that are kind of, not high performance, they're low performance. He's always been doing kind of things outside the box, certainly traditional, but then taking kind of an outside the box approach on them. The rabbit's foot stuff is out of left field. But now he's gotten really into, kind of high level, high performance surfing. William Aliotti has been riding a bunch of his twin fins. He just did that twin fin invitational in France, but he's been riding those twin fins at like 10-foot Candui, Lovelace, 𝐒𝐚𝐬𝐬. And so that kind of sparked my interest of, wow, okay, that's a different direction or a different style of boards and a different style of surfing that's being done on Ryan's boards than I've seen in the past. And now this doubles down on the idea of high performance surfing on a Lovelace board. So really interesting career trajectory for him and his designs.
Yeah. And stoked for Ryan. He early in his career, I think he would tell you that, he was pretty, or others would tell you for sure that they thought he was a little, too outspoken or too taking credit for, it's none of my business really. I don't know too much about it, but I agree with you that, that he's really, I don't think we've seen anywhere near the best from him. I think the best is yet to come for Ryan Lovelace. And I'm watching Dave surf this board. It's pretty awesome. And it does make you want to go get one. Another shout out, I think, and another big winner, if you will, is Gary McNeil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's another guy who I've had some of his boards. I want to revisit some of his boards. And so shout out to the guy who makes Dave's everyday boards.
exactly. And 3 boards that he's had for 8+ years that are still performing at a high level. For me, and we've also mentioned Danny Johnson as the producer and editor of this series. He is an incredible talent, deserves all the credit in the world for the success of this series. So Danny Johnson. And then for me, the music, the score of this episode was the best of any stab piece I've ever seen. So perfect score for every segment and segue. The style of surfing he was doing, it was like the music was exactly birthed from that style of surfing, And so Rick Snowden is the uber talented musician who provides the score for this. So thank you for that too.
Good stuff. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Okay. Surfrider Foundation. Look, surfrider.org. We talk about, you should become a member. Of course you should. But at the end of the year, people have charitable budgets they can contribute to. Surfrider is partnering with Reef, and they're going to double your donation. So if you've considered doing a donation to Surfrider, now is the time to do it. It's in partnership with Giving Tuesday, which is a thing. And that ends, I believe, on December 3rd. So you have a couple of weeks left to make this donation, and Reef will match every donation up to $150,000. So your donation can do doubly as good for Surfrider.
That's super cool. So donate to Surfrider. Our good friends at Reef are going to match it. This is the time of year. Let's pay it forward.
Totally. Yeah. So go to surfrider.org and water testing quality, plastic reduction, enhance the protection of the ocean through surfrider.org.
Yeah, guy. We're back. Hey.
Welcome back. I got a heart out, by the way, 8 o'clock, just
Me
FYI.
too.
Okay.
Me too.
Any other thoughts on the electric acid surfboard test, I guess?
My only other thoughts are, I've already mentioned them really, is Rob Machado or Kelly Slater all twinsers. My other real quick thought too is that it's become kind of obvious that if you're a shaper, you should not make a mid-length. Like those aren't going to do anything in these, these guys are such good surfers that they deserve to be given the right sized boards, like making a mid-length is just it's they're going to be surfing in too good of waves for a mid-length.
Totally agree. I did have one more thought. As I was watching it, Ryan did this soliloquy on how the environment around his shaping bay absolutely affects the quality of the board that comes out of it. It's infused into it. And I had this conversation with Corey Graham on the podcast, actually, because he talked about if he's in a good mood, that he just, and it's not just like I can think more clearly and I make a better, decisions in the manufacturing process. No, it was a juju that gets infused into the foam and fiberglass based on
Juju. Is that a
was,
candy? Isn't that like a little green candy or something?
that puts him in a good mood too. So what are your thoughts on that?
I have no doubt that on some sort of subconscious level or even conscious level, that being in a good space is a benefit. I think a great example of this is clothes. If you change your clothes and like put on like really nice clothes, you just feel better about yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's sort of a microcosm, I think, of what they're discussing.
See, I think it's on a cosmic level. I think it's beyond mood.
Yes.
I think it's like literally like the harmony of the river that Ryan is talking about and the people that lived there before, and all of it is infused into that experience and boards and all of it in a way that is undefined and unexplainable. And I at least want to believe that that is true.
Well, here. I'm with you on that. Why would, well, I love that. I'm all about that. You know what? It's like Venus is in the third quarter rising or whatever, I'm a fan.
Is that a football player? Third quarter?
I don't know. It's some sort of ethereal reference that I made. I don't know what it means. Pat Rawson knows.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Um, I want to get to a must-see moment, but before we do, I just want to state that the Dahui backdoor shootout has been scheduled. It's on the books. It is for, let's see, January 4th through the 16th is the waiting period for the Dahui backdoor shootout. And then also the Vans Pipe Masters has started to release their invitee list and their
Yeah.
alternative list, and this made a big splash.
Yeah. What was interesting to me was the WSL put out a press release about this.
Yeah, they
Um,
did last year too. Remember they did like a kind of
oh, is that what it
branding
is?
of it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so the big splash, I mean, I could read you some of the names of the invitees. They haven't released the full list yet, but it's basically Vans team riders currently. Imai Kalani DeVault, um, Nathan Florence, Harry Bryant, Tosh Tudor. They're also inviting Mason Ho. They're also inviting Balaram Stack, who's a previous winner, and Noah Dean. And then on the women's side, Molly Picklum, who's a previous winner, Bella Kenworthy, Caitlin Simmers, who apparently got the release from the WSL to compete in this event. But interestingly, one person who wasn't on the invitee list, but was on the alternative list is Jamie O'Brien. And this created quite the kerfuffle in the last 24 hours. Josh Moniz took to Instagram in JOB's defense and basically said, what the hell? Like that is such a, you guys are
That's
blowing
like
it.
not inviting Jerry Lopez, basically.
Yeah. And so then Jamie O'Brien actually got on after the fact and he said, quote, this is his own Instagram post. Growing up, I was told to let your surfing do the talking, but I guess that's not enough anymore. For nearly 30 years, I've dedicated myself to Pipeline, winning every event, building my dream home here, and making Pipeline my life. Last week, I realized I didn't get the Pipe Master invite. When I asked why, I was told I'm too old and I didn't make the cut. Instead, I'm on the alternative list with a don't worry, you'll probably get in. Looking at the current invite list, It's not only me that should be on there. There are so many other surfers that didn't receive invites and they deserve to be on that list. I want to give a shout out to Josh Moniz for speaking up, but mention people like Josh himself, Kalani Chapman, Tori Meister, Lucas Godfrey, Eli Olson, Tyler Newton, Bruce Irons, Reef McIntosh, just to name a few, should without question be put into this event. We've spent years putting in our time, the hours, the dedication of the wave. To say I'm upset and disrespected is an understatement. It's sad to see such a prestigious event being run by kooks who clearly don't understand the reality of the lineup at Pipeline.
Wow. All right. Well, now the gauntlets, the line's been drawn. Like, my question to you, do they acquiesce or does Vans hold the hard line here?
They'd be so dumb to hold a hard line. I don't understand why they would overlook Jamie in the first place. He has the biggest social media presence. Like, he can attract more attention to their event than they can do on their own. And he's the most qualified.
It's silly. It's unbelievable. Like I said, it's like not inviting Jerry Lopez. You know what I mean? You're like, dude, this is
It's
the
crazy.
guy.
And he's still in his, not prime, but he's still absolutely capable of winning the event. So I have no idea what was behind that decision. And when you look at the list of invitees, they're nowhere near the level, of Jamie.
Well, and also Jamie, from what I understand, is also dedicated, to staying in top prime physical condition for this. It's not like he's at the party drinking beers and smoking grits. You know what I mean? Like, he's engaged in surfing pipe as good as he can possibly surf it, which is probably better than 100% of the people.
He's out there every swell getting set waves and A+ clips every
I
swell.
bet if you talk to, the younger guys like the 𝐒𝐚𝐸𝐺, they're like, that guy's the guy.
Of course.
Or you talk to even his contemporaries who, Kalani Chapman or Koa Rothman, he's the guy. He's the guy. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah. So I think this is a total oversight. And what I loved was seeing Jamie say, to say I am upset and disrespected is an understatement. I love, just call a spade, put it all out there. It is what it is. You know what I mean? No need to be around the bush.
Jamie will do that. You're not going to get any fluff from Jamie. He will tell it like it is.
Look, we've criticized the WSL and we also do it with a caveat of understanding all the bureaucracy and the layers of whatever they have to go through to make these decisions. Vans has the ability just to invite anybody they want. You know what I mean? So they're not held to the same kind of parameters or limitations. And so I would hope that this was an oversight and they recognize it as an oversight, and then they just allow Jamie into the event, especially since the invite list isn't set in stone yet. They've only announced some of the invitees. So why not change it from an alternative into an invite? So
the interesting thing here as we get out of here, I know, is what does the messaging look like if you're Vans and you do that? Do you just kind of like slide Jamie in and don't say anything? Or do you like come out and go, hey, we screwed up?
I'd own it. Yeah, I'd own it.
For sure. You got to totally own it. Yeah. I'd
be like, dude, we just had a total, oversight. We love your surfing. Please.
Is it oversight, the word that you use, or how, or do you just go, you know what? I don't know. That's what I'm wondering what the messaging is. I guess it doesn't really matter. The point is he needs to be in it.
For their own good. He should be in it.
For everyone, for you, for me, the consumers, the end user, for Jamie, he's a former pipe master.
I know, and still at it. So anyways, while we're on the subject of Pipeline, by the way, my must-see moment far and away is John Florence's new film, Here and There.
Oh yeah.
Insane. It's insane.
So good.
It's 18 minutes of unbridled, ticks every box. You want to see massive barrels, long, massive barrels? Great. You want to see the craziest air rotations on head-high waves? Great. He does flips, all of it, lefts, rights, crazy sandbar quadruple ups. It's insane, right?
It's enough to make you want to buy a tri-fin.
They set the new standard every time.
Yeah. By the way, Bob Hurley was over there too. I ran into Bob and his wife.
Amazing.
And, he's a big part of the Florence family, so that's cool.
Yeah, totally. Well, what I would like to say, my impression after I watched this, I had an epiphany. It's kind of controversial, so send your hate email to me.
Yeah.
The Florence brothers, John in particular, stands alone from the other top level CT competitors who are going for world titles, because none of those other contenders give back to surfing in the way that John does. And I don't mean this in terms of like charitable giving. I mean this in terms of content. I mean this in terms of we're fans of surfing and we want to watch surfing. So John is pursuing world titles, but additionally, he's putting together art pieces that we then get to watch in the off season. The only thing I get from Gabriel Medina, Felipe Toledo, and Italo is selfies on Instagram because they're trying to build their social media profiles and earn more money. You know what I mean? There's a certain selfishness that I feel as fans of those guys that really is distasteful to me, as opposed to John, where it's like he could work the algorithm and have 3 times the amount of Instagram followers if he wanted to. He doesn't. He quietly toils away and bags these A+ clips, does not put them on Instagram, compiles them, gives them to a super talented editor and filmmaking team. They create art and they gift it back to us, and it shits on everything else that's out there right now. It is the best. So
that, my friend, is a hot take. Good work. Until next time, adios and aloha.
well done.
That was a good take.
It's real though, right?
It is real. It's totally real.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. See ya.